What is going on, folks out there? We appreciate you joining your Lake Fork Guide again. We're going to do a little addition of the Guides Network. This guy's not a guide, but he kind of used to. He did a little bit.
A little bit.
Mr. Heath Taylor. He's Texas game warden / one of the best bait makers in the state of Texas, in my personal opinion. And I think we kind of proved that on Monday's video, considering the conditions we were faced. We caught them on 10 different baits that you make. And a lot of them were line through swim baits, right?
Mm-hmm. Line through swim baits.
So today we're going to talk to you guys about the advantage of using line throughs, when to use them, how to rig them, why we use them when we do. Basically all the goods, all the dirty details about line through swim baits, right?
That's it.
And you probably throw them as much as anybody in East Texas.
Throw them a lot. Like I said,
he does.
When we showed up at the lake today, I had 9 rods on the deck.
Mm-hmm.
All 9 were swim baits on.
All 9 were swim baits, and probably 5 or 6 of the 9 were line through type swim baits. So, all right, that's what we're going to get after, line through swim baits. If you want to know how to catch really big bass on big baits in tough conditions in the spring, pay attention. It's coming at you right now. Well, we tried to do this thing on the water, but then the water started falling from above us.
Yeah, much quicker.
And it was very cold.
Yeah.
And plus, if you guys have ever tried to make a video on a GoPro with a microphone attached to it, rain makes it a little difficult. The audio gets messed up, the visual gets messed up, the camera gets all foggy and watery. It's not good. So here we are. We're in the Smash Factory, right? Is that what it's called?
Back at the Smash Factory.
Smash Factory with the Smash Captain, and he's going to talk to you, like we said, about line throughs, and I'm going to get out of his way because he's the man when it comes to this. So take it away, Heath.
All right. Basically, you know, as I don't know if we've talked about it before, but as far as swim baits go, the main 2 that normally people throw is a weedless, which most of the time they'll have a split belly, a belly weighted swim bait hook with. Well, the others is the line through, which by line through, for those that aren't swim bait familiar, line through basically is exactly what it implies, is that the line goes in the nose of the bait, out through the belly. All of our baits have a plastic tube with a tin insert, and the reason for that tin insert is you've seen some of these baits that you know, even very expensive baits that have a lid insert that if you set them in your tackle box or in your boat, over time it will turn this whole section of this bait white or brown, just completely discolor it and almost start eating at the plastic. So we use tin, so that's not going to happen. So the line goes in that nose, out the belly. You tie on a treble hook, which ours come with a heavy duty split ring and an owner treble hook. Now, like I said, between weedless and line through baits, if I can at all get away with it, I would rather throw a line through bait. Reason being, your hookup ratio is going to be much better. You know, even though with a weedless bait, as long as you're fishing the right, you know, hook set up, right rod, you're still going to have good luck. But this gives you, like I said, a lot more points to stick fish with. So basically, when the fish eats this bait, comes up, grabs it, you know, the hook will separate from the bait. It also doesn't give him leverage. Like I said, this just slides up. You know, when he comes up, shakes his head, all he's got is that left in his mouth. So you hardly ever lose a fish by him throwing it. Now, one little tip that is, you know, it's one of the reasons we use owner hooks is if you'll look, if we can get close enough, if you will look, there's going to be one of these points that is lined up with the eye of that hook, that is the one that you'll want to take and stick back in the belly of the bait. So you'll take that point, and what you'll do is you measure it to where it goes in. You'll find a spot just past, because you don't want the split ring right up against that tube. You want it back just a tiny, tiny bit. So you'll measure it, and you'll stick the point that's in line with the eye back in the bait. And that will allow your split ring to lay flat on the belly. You have these two hanging down, and that will help it run completely true through the water. And a lot of these baits, you'll have like a little fin that you can take and straddle. You can see that. Same thing with, like the big gizzard shad. You find the one that's in the line, stick it in there, nestle it right between those fins. So, like I said, I like throwing, if I can get away with it, say, you've got submerged hydrilla, you've got open water, you're fishing the edges of grass, I want to throw a line through. Now, there's times when you're just not going to be able to get away with it. The grass is too thick, and you spend more time picking grass off your bait. So you're going to have to go to a weedless bait. Like lily pad stems, you just can't throw line throughs. If you're in a lot of stumps, it's hard to throw line throughs. But if I can get away with it, I throw a line through. If I'm in thick stuff, I'll go back to the weedless baits. So if you hadn't thrown a line through, it's one of my favorite things to do. You need to try them out. So that's basically how you rig them. Now, when you're throwing a line through, or really, it kind of applies for weedless too, but especially these line throughs. You throw it out there. I usually make long casts, and you'll let it sink. A couple seconds, depending on how deep you're fishing, and it's just a real slow, steady retrieve. Like I said, you try to tell people that, they think, well, I'm fishing it slow enough. Well, a lot of these, we just have just enough weight to where just a slow, steady retrieve is going to keep it right at the right depth. Now, you're going to want to point your rod straight at that bait. You don't want, your rod over to the side like you do on a lot of baits, like you see a lot of people fishing, chatter baits or spinner baits, stuff like that. You want it pointed right at the bait. And you're going to feel it. A lot of times you'll feel your whole rod will jump when they hit this bait, because it's violent. Your whole rod will jump. Well, sometimes they'll come up and they hit it so hard to kill it, but they don't completely get it. So you just keep reeling. If you feel your whole rod jump, your instinct is to just jerk right away. Well, a lot of times you'll miss those fish. Keep reeling, and you'll feel it jump. You'll feel it jump again. Just keep reeling real slow. Like I said, don't get excited. And all of a sudden, you'll hit it, and it will just completely load up. And that's when you go ahead and just keep reeling, and it'll load up and just lean back into them. Like I said, then you can go ahead and set the hook hard. Like I said, it's hard to stay. It's kind of like frog fishing almost, to where you've got to be patient. When they get it, go ahead and feel them on there, and then go ahead and lean into them.
Is there a particular type of area? What kind of cover? What kind of structure? Where are you looking to throw a line through?
When I'm throwing a line through, the stuff I'm looking for is, a big thing that's going on right now at Lake Fork is shell beds. You're fishing over shell beds because, it's able to fish over that kind of structure and cover without getting hung up. One of my favorite ways to fish it is if you're in a lake with hydrilla. Say you don't have the hydrilla completely matted up like we fished today. There were some places it was completely matted. We weren't able to get a line through up in there. But there's places that we caught the fish on line throughs out away from that. If you can find that edge to where the grass tapers down, and you've got about, say, 3 to 5 feet between the top of the grass and the surface of the water, those are my absolute favorite places, because you can be reeling through there, and you'd be surprised how, even these two hooks exposed down here, even with these two hooks exposed down here, you'll feel it kind of tick the grass, and it'll just, that little bit of direction change when it ticks that grass is a lot of times what will trigger, because these baits are not reaction baits. I put cameras on some of these baits in line, and you'll see a big wolf pack of 3 to 5 pounders, following it. And they're sitting there watching and waiting to do something a little bit different. So a lot of times when it hits that grass, instead of just sitting there, the whole body moves like this. When it hits that grass, sometimes it'll pull down on it and it'll make it jump off to the side. A lot of times that's what will trigger them to go ahead and commit and eat. So, like I said, that's probably my favorite. Like I said, I know a lot of people throw them in different places. I'll throw them around timber if I think, I can, most of the timber is visible, if I can fish it in and out of there. If there's a lot of laydowns and stuff, it's hard to fish them through there. But if there's, like I said, submerged grass, shell beds, any open, edges, you can fish. Say you've got a, alligator weed or anything like that, where you can actually fish.
Docks are another one. If you got a lake without timber, you can work them down the line of a dock in the summertime when those fish are up under that shade.
Yeah, a lot of people throw docks. That was one of the tournaments that kind of put swim baits on the national map. Steve Kennedy was throwing big swim baits in Clear Lake back several years ago, and they were throwing them up those docks at Clear Lake, and it was drawing those big huge fish out from under those docks. That clear water.
That's the thing, man. Swim baits, they draw fish from a distance. They come a long ways to come look at that bait on them big baits.
And a lot of times, even if you don't catch the fish, they will show themselves. A lot of times, people will use a big swim bait as a search tool.
Yes.
They'll go through an area, and some of the biggest fish in that area will follow this bait up to the boat, and it'll kind of show yourself. Well, you may or may not always catch them on the swim bait. Most of the time, you can get them to commit by either switching up your swim bait, or making it do a little directional change. You can get them to commit. But even if that doesn't happen, you can go back maybe with another bait and fish the area more thoroughly and catch some of those fish that showed themselves.
What rod, reel, and line? Did you already cover that?
As far as rods go, I like, for these bigger, heavier, 3 ounce plus swim baits, I'll throw. I use like a 7.9, 7.11, 8 foot. You want a heavy action rod. I still want some tip because I want it to give a little when they're coming out and eating it. I don't want just a complete broomstick. If I was throwing some of the really, really, really heavy 7, 8, 9 ounce baits, you're going to have something a little bigger. But for these, I want something that's got a fast tip, but lots and lots of backbone. 20-pound fluorocarbon is what I use 90% of the time, unless I'm in pad stems or something like that. Then I'll go to braid.
Usually, in the case that you need braid, you're probably going to be throwing a weedless bait.
Yeah, if I've got braid on, I'm usually throwing the Convict or the Headhunter. Some of the weedless baits that you rig on the big weedless hooks. But when I'm throwing line throughs, it's usually going to be 20-pound fluorocarbon. Now you can get away with, I've thrown them before, especially these smaller line through swim baits. Just grab your flipping stick. Say you want to throw swim baits and get into swim baits, and you don't want to go buy a swim bait specific rod. I've caught a ton of fish on, just go buy you a 7.4 heavy or mag heavy, worm rod, jig rod, frog rod, and that is perfectly fine. Don't let anybody tell you that you've got to go out and have, certain, because you'll see some swim bait people, they'll think, well, you've got to have these huge big capacity reels and these huge handles and these big fancy custom swim bait rods that does that make it nice to have a custom setup? Yeah, it makes it nice and a little more comfortable. But I've caught tons and tons of fish on an old flipping stick and 20-pound line and go out there and slinging swim baits. It's because you're lobbing these baits. You're not whipping them out.
Man, I'll tell you what, you did a great job on this bait right here in particular. I mean, if I've ever seen a bait that looks more like a shad, I can't remember it. That looks exactly like the medium to small size gizzard shad that those bass love to key in on a lot of East Texas lakes and a lot of lakes across the country. Really, big bass. There's no more favorite food for a big bass than that right there.
Big gizzard shad.
That's right. So, hey, good job. Thank you for coming on and sharing this with these guys. I know it's a pattern I get asked about a lot. People are really intrigued by big baits because of the potential to catch those giant fish that it catches. There's
a lot of mystique around swim bait fishing. People think it's more, I don't know. It's just people think it's this mysterious thing that they can't do. But just put one in your hand, go out there and throw it. It's the main thing.
Right. And then you'll start dialing in some of the finer points of the areas and stuff like that, because it doesn't have to be a giant to eat one of these. We saw that some today.
No.
And I've seen it plenty over the years. I know you have as well. I mean, 2 and 3 pounders will come up and try to eat.
That's the thing is people see that and they're like, oh my goodness, that's a huge bait. Well, no, not really. It's
not a bad. I mean, a 2 pound bass will put that in his mouth.
Completely choke it.
Yeah,
it'll
absolutely.
Be gone.
So, well, like I said, thanks for coming on and doing this, helping our viewers, sharing with them. Appreciate it very much, as always, brother.
Enjoy it.
Y'all give on SmashTechBaits.com a look. It'll be linked below if you want to order up any of these big baits. Highly suggest him. Check them out, SmashTechBaits.com. Like I said, right below. We appreciate you guys watching today. Hey, if you like this video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. Leave us a comment below. If you got any questions, put them down below. I'll have Heath come on here and answer them for you. And other than that, we'll see you guys next time. Right here on your Lakeport Guide.